Well, the redistricting fight is heating up as Texas Democrats plead for donations to extend their walkout. The groups fled to Illinois in this effort to block a vote to redraw the state's congressional districts. Brooke Taylor, she's still in Austin with much more. Hi, Brooke.
Hi, Dana. The Texas House Speaker set a deadline for Friday for those Democrats to get back to Texas and to break quorum. But the Democrats that I spoke to are refusing to come back and say that they are not going to be here on Friday. Over 50 Texas Democrats are still absent after fleeing to blue states to block that redistricting vote. The new district map, backed by President Trump, aims to flip 5 seats and help Republicans hold the House in November. Redistricting usually happens every 10 years after the census. Now, while doing it earlier is rare, it is legal. Governor Greg Abbott has threatened to remove Democrats from office and fill their seats. The House Speaker has even issued civil arrest warrants, and President Trump has said the FBI may have to get involved. But still, Democrats are not backing down. We spoke to Representative James Tallarico, who fled to Chicago. Are you prepared to be arrested once you do enter Texas?
I am. And if law enforcement apprehends me, I, of course, will go peacefully and will follow their instructions. I knew that I would be facing consequences for doing this. But again, I think it's bigger than me.
And on top of the travel costs, they are also faced with a $500 fine a day. And House members make just $600 a month. Dana.
All right, Brooke Taylor, the saga continues. Thank you so much.
Joining us now is Karl Rove, Fox News contributor and former White House Deputy Chief of Staff. Karl, great to be with you this morning, and I'm so eager to see what's on your whiteboards because you're exactly the person I want to know. I want to see break down this issue. We know well sort of the politics of this and the irony of these Texas Democrats going to a state like Illinois, which is heavily gerrymandered, to try to make their complaints. Same case with Massachusetts. But if Republicans go down this path, you know, outside of Texas, is there any data to show whether they'd come out on a winning end of this, or does it get hairy somewhere?
Well, there's Democrats. They're going to be. First of all, let's admit there are going to be consequences for both parties as a result of what's happening in Texas that neither party will like. Yes, the Democrats are going to try and do something in all likelihood, they say, in California, but they've got a constitutional requirement that the lines are drawn by a commission. So Governor Newsom would need to first get legislation through his very pliant Democratic legislature, which he can do. But then he would have to go to the voters in November and get them to retroactively remove the provision from the Constitution and validate his plan. And that's a very big uphill climb. New York, Governor Hochul says all's fair in love and war, and we're going to retaliate. But her Constitution prohibits them from mid-decade redistricting, and so hard for us to see how that gets done. Now, can Maryland step in maybe and by legislation make it to take away the one Republican seat in the state? Yes. But there are not a lot of places where you can see a clear path to the Democrats picking up a number of seats to counter what might happen in Texas, a gain of 4 or 5. And remember, while we talk about 5 seats in Texas, one of those seats requires the Republicans to beat a popular, albeit troubled Democratic incumbent who ran 6 points ahead of Kamala Harris last fall and is one of the 13 people who, 13 Democrats who won a seat that Donald Trump carried.
Karl, what do you think of the White House's call for either a new census or for at least understanding that there was this influx of so many people that came in during the Biden administration and that it has changed certain places? Now, a lot of those people are being deported, self-deporting or getting out because of ICE, and they want to have a redo once all of those things are in place. What do you think of that reasoning, the messaging on that?
Well, it's messaging, but it's not reality. The census is a very complicated process that takes 10 years to do. Remember, this involves knocking on the door of every home in America or getting a document back from every home in America in order to draw these lines. I mean, I think the White House was also implying, which is accurate, that Texas is a rapidly growing state. We will we will gain several more seats. We've got 38 today. We will probably be at 41, 42 seats after the next redistricting that happens, after the next census occurs in 2030. But look, that's conversation. That's not reality. There's no way that between now and the 26th election that you could conduct another census, be accurate in the outcome, hand the numbers over to the states, go through the process of writing a plan, have it approved by the states, have it approved by the courts, implement it, recruit candidates, have them run campaigns and get elected. It is way too short a time frame for that to happen. It's hard enough when you have when this happens in the first year after the census is conducted, for example, in 2021 for the last time, in order to be ready for the 2022 election. It takes all of those nearly 2 years to get it done. There's no way that it can get done, in my opinion, between now and the 2026 election.
Karl, very, very quickly, because we're almost out of time, is there any concern in your mind that if there's a mid-decade redistricting blitz right now, that we're going to see this every couple years?
Yes, there is. I mean, I think that once you break down the norm, this starts to happen. And remember, both sides have done this. I remember well when Eric Holder, the Attorney General under Barack Obama, under what I think and what lawyers told me was a relatively thin legal covering, demanded that North Carolina redistrict in the middle of the decade in order to kill, in essence, two Republican seats and replace them with Democrats. Let me close by one note. What does the Texas effort do? It creates two black majority congressional districts, first time in the history of Texas. Isn't that a goal of the Voting Rights Act? It creates an 8th Hispanic majority district, albeit one that's Republican. And it does so without involving themselves in these goofy lines like that we see in Illinois, that in which there's a deliberate attempt to go hundreds of miles across the state in order to link together pockets of one party's supporters in order to get a congressional seat that it wouldn't otherwise have if it was relatively compact and community of interest.
And I commend everybody to look at your Wall Street Journal column today, Karl, where you talk about this some more. Thank you so much for being with us.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.